It is February 4th, 2021, and I'm going to call this Lacey City Council meeting to order. And we will start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
We do have one amendment to tonight's agenda. Under item 6A, we're going to add to proclaim February 2021 as African American History Month. Given that, can I get a approval of the amended agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
Councilmember Greenstein motioned and Councilmember Cox seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
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 Is there any opposed? The motion carries. We have an agenda. And first up, under public comment on items not on agenda, we didn't have anyone sign up for verbal testimony. We did receive 2 written comments, and that's been passed along to staff, and they're going to do a little bit of follow up. There's a question in there, and we'll follow up on that question. And now we'll go to our first other item under our amended agenda, which is a proclamation to have February be African American History Month. And we'll start off with Councilmember Miller.
Whereas during African American History Month, the many achievements and contributions made by African Americans to our economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development are celebrated. And
whereas in 1976, Black History Month was formally adopted to honor and affirm the importance of Blacks in American history, advance the cause of civil rights, and strengthen families, communities, and the nation. And
whereas in 1915, Dr. Carter G. Woodson, a noted Black scholar and son of former slaves, founded the Association for the Study of African American Life and History and initiated Negro History Week in 1926. And
you're on mute.
Thanks, Mayor. Whereas the first kidnapped Africans were brought to this country 400 years ago and was the beginning of legalized slavery that lasted over 250 years until emancipation in 1863. And
whereas as a result of their determination, hard work, and perseverance against all odds, African Americans have made valuable and lasting contributions to our community, the state, and the nation, achieving exceptional success in all aspects of society, including business, education, politics, science, the military, sports, and the arts. And
whereas Association for the Study of African American Life and History's 2021 theme, The Black Family, emphasizes representation, identity, and diversity.
Now, therefore, I, Andy Ryder, Mayor of the City of Lacey, and on behalf of the Lacey City Council, do hereby proclaim February 2021 as African American History Month in the City of Lacey, and urge all citizens to recognize the continued need to battle racism and to build a society that is more just, peaceful, and prosperous for all. By myself, Mayor Andy Ryder, February 4th, 2021. Thank you for all of that. I'm glad we were able to get on tonight's agenda. Next up on our agenda under ordinances is Ordinance 1583, the Comcast Cable Communications Management Agreement. Finally, Steve Kirkman. Uh-oh, can't hear you, Steve, for some reason.
How's that?
There you go.
Apologies.
No problem.
Okay, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Before you this afternoon is a proposed ordinance approving a non-exclusive 10-year franchise agreement between the City of Lacey and Comcast Cable Communications Management, authorizing Comcast to operate a cable franchise system within the City of Lacey. On January 21, first, the city held a public hearing to obtain public comment and questions regarding the franchise. During the hearing, the city's cable consultant, Ken Feldman of Kissinger and Feldman of Denver, Colorado, provided comments and information to council, as well as Hans Heckman, the Senior Director of Government and Regulatory Affairs for Comcast. In addition, Deb Vinsel, who is the CEO of Thurston Community Media, commented in support generally of the proposed franchise agreement. No other public comments were made during the hearing, and no comments were received by the other established methods of collecting those from the public in the allotted time period. The proposed franchise maintains the standards and practices necessary to protect the city's right-of-way. It maintains the 5% franchise fee that we've customarily charged Comcast for use of the right-of-way, and currently that's generating about $700,000 annually. It maintains the PEG increase and actually provides a vehicle for the city to increase our existing PEG fee of 30 cents per subscriber per month to 50 cents per subscriber per month, which would make the total of PEG collections approximately $62,000. It also enables the city, upon request, to have Comcast provide HD channels for our PEG programming. And as council was fully briefed by Mr. Feldman during the hearing, I think I'm going to stop there and respond to comments or questions, and we'll go from there.
Can I get a motion?
I would move to approve ordinance 1583 Comcast Cable Communications Management Cable Franchise Agreement.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? So, Steve, this has been a very long time coming. I mean, we extended this deadline several times. You know, for me, the one thing that's still out there is what's going to happen with TCTV and our long-standing relationship with them. At what point will we have to make a decision if we're going to continue with TCTV or if we're going to go in a different direction?
So the city has 23 months left on our current contract, service provider contract with TC Media. From staff's perspective, there is no driver for us to not continue through that contract period. The unknown, as you just alluded to, is because of the studio support, the change in that arrangement with Comcast for TC Media's production facility, that may create some financial challenges for them operationally. However, all the jurisdictions and TC Media have been having staff-to-staff conversations. I believe some of the executives have had similar conversations. And so we're hopeful that, you know, TC Media has about a year, I think it was the end of this year, so they got 10 and a half months or whatever, to determine what the best approach long-term might be for that. And we're confident that that can be addressed, but, you know, obviously at this point in time, we don't have a firm answer. And John has just informed me that Ken has joined us by phone. So if you have technical questions for Mr. Feldman, he'll be audio only, but we can certainly converse with him as well.
I guess the only other question I have is, when do you see us going to high definition for our city?
Yes, basically it's upon request. So hey, Ken, I think we're from your phone.
Can you mute yourself?
I'm gonna.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, thank you, sir. So Comcast will need a specific amount of time to make that technology operational. We will have to put some, we've got the old coax cabling connecting the City Hall facility out to College Street where the main trunk line is. So we'll have to replace that with fiber because that's a pretty old piece of cable right now. So there's that. There's some things Comcast willing to do on the head end just to kind of get their system equipped. But basically, our arrangement is to make the formal request to them and within 30 days get what their plan is for meeting it. And I think the franchise says 6 months, but it may be 5 months or 7 months that from the time of the request, we'll have HD operational.
Okay. Is there any other questions? Seeing none, it has been moved and seconded to adopt this ordinance 1583, approving a non-exclusive 10-year franchise agreement between the city of Lacey and Comcast Cable Communications Management, authorizing the Comcast to operate a cable television system within the city of Lacey. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
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 Is there any opposed? Then the motion carries. Thank you for all your hard work, Steve, and thank you, Ken, for all you've done for the city of Lacey. And we look forward to hopefully getting in high definition, although I don't know if anyone wants to see me in high definition, so we might need to hold off on that a little bit. That being said, next up is the city manager's report.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. We have before you a TCOM 911 intergovernmental agreement. This is an amended agreement, and I believe we have the director of TCOM as well as the assistant. If John can transition them over to participants.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. How are you this evening?
Good, thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
So Keith, we thought we'd provide a quick overview and presentation of the interlocal agreement.
Okay. Can I share my screen? Yes. Okay, how is that working?
Perfect.
So let me back this up without making you all sick. Thurston 911 Communications, as you all know, has been providing service to the community for many years. And we've had this interlocal with our partners in the community, our public safety community, since the late 1980s. And it was last refreshed in 2010. And the reason it was refreshed then was that was when TCOM was separating from Thurston County as a department. It was known as Capcom before TCOM, and it was a county department. And so in 2010 became independent. It is organized as a 501c3 under the RCW 39.34 with intergovernmental agreement with all of the cities and public safety agencies in the county. So in May of 2018, the administration board of TCOM was looking at ways to borrow money so that we could replace the public safety radio system. And in doing so, ran into the clause in 3.4.6 that essentially made it a little bit confusing about TCOM's ability to borrow money as an agency. And the bond agents were recommending that we change the interlocal agreement to make it more clear that the agency was responsible for our own debts and was able to borrow our own money. So that's what started this process. The administration board and subsequently operation board members established a working group that went through the IGA at the time and came up with recommendations. So first, let me explain to you what we have to go through to make a change to the IGA. Amendments, of course, are allowed by any member agency who signed the intergovernmental agreement. And so in this case, the administration board itself is making the recommendations. And we have to go out to every single member and get their approval for these amendments. And so we are starting with each and every one of our member agencies. The bylaw and working group that was established made most of the recommendations that you'll see in the red line version that we provided you and the presentation today. Some of the recommendations, however, were made by the administration board itself, and it resulted from when the original 1/10 of 1% emergency communication sales use tax was recently changed last November to 2/10 by a vote of the Thurston County voters. So the language in the IGA was very specific to the 1/10. And we subsequently went back and the administration board recommended changes that would modify that, enabling the county to pass those funds through to us. Now, just to be clear, the county is passing the additional 1/10 through to us. That's not an issue, but we wanted to make sure it's codified and in the IGA so that it will continue into the future. All recommendations that you'll see have been reviewed and approved by the Administration Board of Directors of TCOM. And then thank you to Manager Scott Spence. He put together a group of city attorneys and the county attorney to review, and they also approved these recommendations. So in a few minutes, in the next few minutes, I'll just take you through a high-level overview. And if you have specific questions, we can drill down onto those questions and get them answered. Article 1, we changed the sales use tax language, as I mentioned earlier, so that it now reflects total receipts rather than a 1/10 designation. And then in Article 2, we revised and clarified communication services. We added emergency communication systems and facilities because that's the language that's in the RCW for emergency communication sales use tax. Clarified member agency, revised member assessments, non-member agency was also revised and clarified, and public safety interlocal operation was added. In Article 3, formation, purpose, and powers, this is where we changed the language to enable TCOM to be responsible for our own debt and borrow money as an agency. So Article 3.4.6 removed the language through one or more of the member agencies unless and until TCOM 911 has such power under applicable law. So that language is recommended to be removed, and that will allow us to stand alone. And then 3.4.7 had minor language changes for clarification. Most of these minor language changes for clarification are to remove the allocation formula language that was throughout the document. And you will see in a couple of slides that that allocation formula was removed from the IGA, largely from conversations we had with City of Lacey City Council. This has to be 2 years ago now. There was a lot of confusion about it, and I'll talk about that in a second. In Article 4, system provision of communication services, made some minor changes in 4.2, revised the language in 4.3 to reflect the current status. And then in 4.4, we added language that allowed TCOM to purchase equipment for member agencies. As you may or may not know, in the replacement of the radio system, TCOM elected to purchase the portable radios and the mobile radios for all of the member agencies that belong to TCOM through the IGA. And there really was no specific provision that allowed us to do that. So we changed the language in 4.4 so that we could do that for you all. In 4.6, we added language that reflects the current lease on the building we occupy. This building is owned and operated by the county, and previously, when we were a county department, that was not an issue. When we became TCOM and independent, the only legal connection we had with this building was in the IGA itself. And it literally was a one sentence that says that we would occupy this building. So subsequent to Wendy and I becoming the director and deputy, we have negotiated a lease with terms and conditions with the county for this building, including rates of rent and responsibilities on both sides. So this language in 4.6 clarifies that lease. In Article 5, term and termination of the intergovernmental agreement, we made minor changes and clarifications. Article 6 was the same in 6.4.1. Article 7 had no changes. In Article 8, we had a pretty lengthy discussion about this article, in that in recent years, we've had parties who've been interested in becoming a member of the agency. And the language in Article 8 that allows that, or the process to become a member, was a little bit unclear. And so the board, the administration board, elected to add this language and the ability to contribute future revenue from a dedicated funding source for maintenance, operations, and replacement purposes. And that further clarified what the administration board would require of an applicant who wanted to be a member of TCOM. Article 9, there were no changes. Article 10, there were minor language changes for clarification. And then in Article 11, this is where we really did a lot of the work. Deleted member assessment paragraph. We revised the sales use tax language in 11.1. We added a new section, 11.2, which revised language to eliminate the Schedule 1 allocation formula. And but it still remained, it still preserved the process to implement member funding formulas if necessary. And then 11.3 and 11.4 were deleted from that article. In Article 12, no changes. Article 13, no changes. 14, the same. 15 as well. 16 and 17 as well. And then the Schedule 1 initial funding formula was removed, and that was an attachment to the IGA. That was removed. And the reason that was all removed, the allocation formula, was that since 2002, TCOM, the agency, has been collecting the emergency sales use tax, emergency communications sales use tax, and since 2002 has not charged any member of the agency any user fees. And so the board and the working groups all thought it was unnecessary to have this language in the IGA, because subsequent to all of this activity, we have passed the second 1/10, and there's really no, there is no vision for the future need of member assessments or fees. So the allocation formula was eliminated. And that's what I've got for you this evening. If you have questions, be happy to answer.
I would move to approve amended TCOM Intergovernmental Agency Agreement and authorize city manager to sign the new agreement.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? That motion carries. We've approved that. And thank you so much, Keith, for all of your hard work. It's been
Keith, Wendy, thank you.
Thank you,
a long time
Counselor.
coming.
Appreciate your time. Good night.
We'll see you.
Thank you.
So Mayor, I have a couple of items more.
Okay.
I'll try to make this a long council meeting if that's okay.
Yeah, we're gonna go get through this pretty quick.
All right, I'll be mindful of that. Hey, as per Resolution 1067, I signed off on an interlocal agreement that takes care of the maintenance for the Amtrak station off of Yelm Highway. For those at home, this is a unique partnership. Actually involves Tumwater, Olympia, Thurston County, Intercity, and the Port of Olympia. And IT is the lead on that and actually does the maintenance for that Amtrak station that is used by the regions. Probably one of the only example that we have that local government takes care of the maintenance for that train station in the country. The budget's about $106,000. Our portion is only about 16%, so that falls under the $25,000 threshold for me to sign. And that contract will expire in 2028. So I want to make sure council was aware of that. So that has been signed. I also want to take a kind of a point of privilege and introduce Shannon Kelly Fong. Shannon is our new assistant city manager. Unfortunately, I like to do this in person, but this is the best we're going to do with COVID. But we are very excited to have Shannon as part of the leadership team. You'll be seeing a lot more of her at council meetings and work sessions and also at committee meetings. Shannon's in charge of public affairs, the city clerk's office. She'll be heading up our legislative agenda and also the liaison to animal services and working with JASCOM and multiple special projects that she doesn't know about yet. So we're very excited to have Shannon. So Shannon, if you want to say hi to council.
Thank you, Scott. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members. It's wonderful to meet all of you, albeit virtually. I'm glad to be here. I'm very excited to be here, and I am honored to be working for this city, its residents, and the greater community.
Is the desk come in yet?
Yes, there will be a desk actually coming in.
We do have name cards. We're doing really good.
That's good. I had the pleasure to meet you just the other day, and so thank you for serving the city of Lacey, the citizens, and its businesses. We really look forward to working with you.
Welcome,
Okay.
Shannon. I really look forward to meeting you in person. I'm Carolyn.
Nice to meet you, Councilmember Cox.
Thanks.
Well, I actually met her too. We all kind of, Nicole and I and Shannon sat around in a spread out little group talking with our little masks on.
Well, thank you. We'll hopefully we'll get back in person one of these days, and we'll be able to all meet and collaborate a little bit better. I don't know about everyone else here, but I'm really getting tired of these Zoom meetings. And today it's been one of those meetings where I've been on Zoom all day long. So don't mean to cut you off, but we'll go on with our meeting. Thank you so much. We look forward to working with you.
Thanks, Shannon.
Not me, Mayor. Give me more Zoom meetings.
You're crazy. Then let's go on to, do you have anything else, City Manager? Okay, then we'll go on to standing general committees. Deputy Mayor.
So the General Government and Public Safety Committee met January 26th. There were 3 items. We had a Timberland Regional Library update, and so Cheryl Haywood, which is the executive director, talked about their response to COVID, the COVID pandemic. And the library has increased funding in the amount of $850,000 for physical items and online content, including social media and YouTube channels. And there is currently a 20 to 40% increase in online resource usage. And then remember, we had a demonstration library site at Hawks Prairie, but that now has kind of fell through, and so it's working on finding a new location, preferably in Northeast Lacey. And then they talked about the remodel, which was lovely. And then the other item, the second item was we already just talked about and passed, was the Thurston 911 communications agreement. So I'll skip that. And the last was adoption of the 2018 series of building codes. And this is codes that we automatically adopt. The official date of adoption was 2018 international series of codes, but it's been pushed back at that time, February 1st, 2021, due to delays in code development because of COVID. And then once these amendments are published and reviewed by the building department, a final ordinance will be brought forward to the city council for adoption. But I want to make it clear, these are already, we're sort of required to adopt them. There was a lot of discussion about the energy code, and then some discussion on solar ready provisions and tiny houses. The energy code is pretty restrictive, so we had a pretty good discussion of what that meant, and that's my report.
So a couple of quick things. Number one, Timberland Library, as Deputy Mayor said, is looking for space in Northeast Lacey. They had a drop-off little space in a coffee shop there that was working out, but that has changed ownership. And so if anyone listening today knows of a really good space that have a little library outlet, please let us know, and we'll pass that information along. I think a lot of us saw maybe in the Olympian that they're opening up a similar station in Capitol Mall, Westwood Mall, and so it's a great little location for the community. We want something like that in Northeast Lacey. So if you know a space out there, that would be great for Timberland Library. Please let us know and we'll pass that along. The second thing is we did have a lot of discussion around the new energy codes, and what is really concerning about that is there's a lot of unknowns associated with those building codes on how you reach the expectations. And so Councilmember Greenstein has asked the city manager, myself, if we can put this on the work session next Thursday. I would like to have a further conversation with this council. OMB is asking if we can write a letter that will push us off till July. What I'd like to see is a little more of a conversation with the building community on how we can make this better instead of just pushing it off to July. Well, what can we actually do to have some more certainty within this code? And so I've actually had a couple of conversations already with some builders, and I asked them, what would you like to see out of these new codes that will give you a little more certainty? And they said, hey, let me think about that and let me get back to you. And so hopefully I'll be able to add that to this discussion next Thursday, but we are hoping to have that as part of our work session discussion next Thursday. Do you like to add anything, Lenny?
Just that the executive director of OMB, Angela White, will be joining us for the meeting next week. And I saw today that Scott has prepared a potential letter for us to review at that meeting and just, decide if we want to push forward. There's no question that it would be nice to give more certainty, but at the least what they're looking for and would like us to do is push it to July, which was the original. That was the date that was recommended, and it was the governor's decision to push that up to February 1st. So they would just like it pushed back at least to give builders and jurisdictions time to really get a better handle on what these code changes mean, particularly on the energy efficiency stuff and the credits. So.
Okay, thank you. And we'll obviously be discussing that next Thursday in our work session. Now we'll go on to boards, commission, committee reports. I'm up first, but I do not have a report. So we'll go to Deputy Mayor.
So I only have one. The Joint Animal Services Commission met February 1st. And the first thing up was we had elections of chair and vice chair, and we re-elected Lisa Parsley, the Olympia City Council member, as chair, which is, as a veterinarian, this is just right up an important thing for her. And then I was elected vice chair. And they mentioned that, or the executive director, Sarah Hawk, mentioned they are continuing to operate on a modified schedule because of COVID-19. They're open by appointment during normal operating hours. And they talked about their the Pet Point Program Task Force that is being created. It's around a program that will help them carry out different kinds of modules and stuff. So that was exciting. It's not in effect yet. And then she announced that Andrew Toledo will be joining Joint Animal Services as the new operations manager at the end of March. And then we also, it was mentioned that Shannon, who you just met, will be our new liaison. We were also given an update on a possible agreement with Yelm. They will still hold the animals and the police will pick them up, but they've asked JASCOM to pick up, not JASCOM, but Joint Animal Services to pick up the sheltered dogs and cats since their space is limited. And then we had an update overall of the year last year, and there was euthanized pets and pets given up for adoption were substantially down last year. And she thinks it's because of COVID, people just had made the choices to keep their pets with them. But however, Lacey has had a banner year. We've had far fewer requests than other jurisdictions and in the past. The last thing is pretty impressive. We had a presentation on the new portable medical area and surgical area. And they received a grant from ASPCA in the amount of, actually it started out as $30,000, sorry. But then it was increased by $9,100, so $39,100. They had extra and they wondered if JASCOM would use it. And of course we could. The grant was used for this building, which is a 12 by 14 foot building. And this is really going to be a big boon to help the neutered and for neutering and spaying and other medical needs for cats and dogs. And it's in back of the regular office building and sheltering space. So we haven't seen a picture of it. All she has is schematics, but next time she's going to take a camera around and show it to us. So that's my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Cox.
Righty. I have a brief report on the Intercity Transit Authority meeting last night. It was a pretty short agenda. We got an update on the 2021 procurement work plan. And this involves things like new vehicles, furnishings for buildings under construction, just all the kinds of things that intercity transit needs to function. And we also had our annual reorganizing activities. And Clark Gilman from Olympia City Council was elected as vice chair, and I was elected as chair. And in addition, I will continue to represent intercity transit on the Thurston Regional Planning Council. I would like, if I may, a point of personal privilege. We heard a little bit of it tonight, and in our everyday life, we're hearing how tired everyone is with COVID, with being cooped up, with all these things. And I want to call the community's attention to a week-long series of activities that Interfaith Works is doing called Our Shared Journey. And they're calling it a week to reflect, remember, and heal. The first will be an event on Saturday. I believe I want to say it's a Percival Landing, but if you go to Intercity Works website, just Google it, you should be able to find a flyer on there. But there are activities for every day of the week. And I think there should be something for everybody in there. And I think it's an important time to bring our community together and realize what we've come through in the past year and what we're facing in coming months, and hopefully to find some rays of hope that life is going to get easier sooner. So thank you for indulging me on that.
Yeah, that's great. Interfaith Works does a lot of good work for the community, so that's great. And I agree. I think we all need something, a little activity. It's been crazy this past month where it's been so dark and it's rained so much. And someone who's lived my entire life in the Pacific Northwest, I'm still not. It still even gets me. It's like it rains. It's raining nonstop, and next thing you know, you look out and it's dark out. And so I know if it's affecting me, it's affecting a lot of people in our community. And this is a really difficult time for a lot of people. And depression's a real thing. And so I know there's a lot of people out there hurting. And so I just want to make sure everyone knows that Lacey City Council, we care and we understand, and there are organizations out there that will help. So thank you for that, Councilmember Cox. Next up is Councilmember Greenstein.
I just have one report tonight, and that is on TCOM 911. We met yesterday, a fairly long meeting, so I do have quite a few things I want to bring up. But for starters, we were introduced to the newest member of the Lacey Fire District 3 Board of Commissioners. They have a new commissioner, Melissa Gamble. She was introduced to us. She'll be the alternate for TCOM. There was an L&I complaint filed by an employee at TCOM regarding the handling of COVID restrictions and that sort of stuff. And the good news is L&I, after investigating, came back and said that TCOM is doing a really good job of protecting its employees, and found in favor of TCOM that they did not do anything wrong and that they are doing all of the right things to try to protect their employees. So let's bring that up. We also had the Lewis County manager at our meeting. You've heard me talk over the last several months about the feasibility study that Lewis County is doing regarding regionalization of services with Thurston County. And we've expressed quite a few concerns about that. And they wanted to hear that directly from us. So they came to our board last night to listen to our feedback and where the issues were and what issues different members of this committee have. I think we made it very clear to them what our concerns are. They're going to go back now and do some further evaluation to decide whether they should continue down the road at looking at this feasibility of combining into one organization, or if maybe instead they should look at forming their own basically duplicate operation to what TCOM does, but doing it for Lewis County by itself. So more to come on that as time goes. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up, kind of a big deal. You saw that Keith and Wendy were both with us earlier in our meeting. Keith has announced his retirement, which I think I've mentioned in the past, but he will be with us through this year and is retiring in January. The board made a decision yesterday to authorize me to meet with and negotiate with Wendy Hill, who's our deputy director, regarding the executive director position. So rather than going out on a search at this point, the board unanimously was very comfortable with Wendy, who's been with the organization for 20 years and has done a phenomenal job. So we are going to be working toward negotiating a contract with her to become our next executive director. And then we will do a search then to replace the deputy director. So that is my report.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Miller.
I do have one report. Thurston Thrives met on January 25th. Doug Ma gave us a presentation, racial equity presentation, and the conversation primarily focused on, BIPOC communities and communities, disadvantaged communities, and their the ways that they are disadvantaged here in Thurston County, and what we can do to, help fill in the gaps and for lack of a better way to say it, bring those communities up to, standard with the rest of the county. One of the most important parts of that was, access to healthcare services. That was our primary focus. Equal resources and opportunity for all residents in Thurston County to survive and thrive. We got some examples of disparities in access to healthcare that affect everybody. We got kind of a definition of racism in healthcare, and I'll read that. It says racism results in the structuring of opportunity and access by assessing value based solely on skin color and other physical characteristics. This creates unfair health disadvantages and opportunities to some individuals and communities, and unfair health advantages to other individuals and communities. Systemic racism in the access to healthcare services prevents the community as a whole from achieving optimal health for all. So we have a lot of communities, well, I won't say a lot, but there's several communities that because of geographic positioning, they are at somewhat of a disadvantage because of lack of access to healthcare. They are at somewhat of a disadvantage, and we discuss ways that we can, try to, I guess, level the playing field. We also pivoted from there to the Thurston County Comprehensive Plan as adopted in December of last year, and went over some of the things that the county should be supporting. One of those things was the county should support implementation of evidence-based strategies that reduce the harm associated with substance abuse, misuse, abuse, and dependencies. The county should collaborate with partners to provide fact-based drug education to residents, disproportionately impacting groups and community stakeholders. The county should promote safe disposal and storage of unused and expired prescription medication to prevent misuse and abuse. On that one, I saw some prescription bottles on my counter this morning, and I said, "What's going on with all this stuff on the counter?" And my wife said, "Oh, I'm taking it to get disposed of." So I think we're doing good on that one. The county should collaborate with partners to offer evidence-based alternatives that reduce school discipline or justice involvement when that involvement is connected to a substance use disorder. And the county should partner to offer services that increase protective factors and resilience among local youth and families as a means to prevent substance abuse. So the Thurston Thrives committee was mentioned several times in the Thurston County Comprehensive Plan. So, I'm glad that we're a part of it and that we have a voice in the county's overall scheme of things. And that is my report.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is a good time to talk about our Commission on Equity. Right now we have 8 positions open, one youth position and 7 others. And if you are interested in serving on that Commission on Equity, you need to be within the city of Lacey or our urban growth area. And you can find some information about that on our website. Deputy Mayor?
So there was a question at the Youth Council whether or not one of the Youth Council people could apply for the youth representative or not. And we assumed probably so, but we didn't know. So I'm just throwing that out.
Right now, we have not set any restrictions on who that youth representative can be.
Okay.
Councilor.
Just a quick question. So I know we're allowing both residents and urban growth area. Is there any limit as far as, did we set a certain number for urban growth area as opposed to city limits? We didn't, did we?
We did not.
Okay, just checking.
Councilor Miller?
Sorry, I did have one other quick report. Thurston County Coalition Against Trafficking did have its annual community conversation last Thursday as well. As soon as I got out of our meeting, I went into theirs. And the topic there was, men's involvement in trafficking. Without demand, there's no supply. And we were able to take a deep dive into how and why, people get involved in trafficking and being, the demand portion of that supply. And we met with several groups who counsel men, help them try to get out of that addiction and stop perpetuating the issue. We had, I think, roughly 50 participants who signed up and joined us on Zoom to discuss the issues.
Thank you for your work you're doing on that. It's much appreciated. Next up is Councilmember Stedman.
Just a point of personal privilege, if I may, and Mayor. In the last council meeting, beginning of the year, honored a close friend of mine, Chuck Austin, World War II vet, Korean vet, Vietnam vet. He was, in the beaches of Okinawa in the Okinawan invasion. Long story short, he passed away. He was 95, just days after his birthday. But at the same time, he's from the Yakima area, and I know Yakima is going to be looking at doing something special for him. Reflecting on that, it brings us to our area, me personally, and we have many people that served in that theater and the Korean War theater that live right here at home, and we're losing them every single day. So I hope we would consider as a council and as a community to consider honoring these people so they're not lost in the history books, their personal touch. History is recorded, of course. So anyways, I just wanted to bring that up, and he was a great man. We need more great people. And my great aunt was part of the Flying Tigers. So there's great women veterans too that served in all those theaters as well. So anyways, just one last honor for a great man and a thankful nation. That's it.
Thank you. Councilor Kunkel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Give me a second. Pulling up the Graticus. Okay, so our VCB board, we met last January 19th. Stated before, there was a concern over House Bill 1069 that would have effectively swept away our lodging tax and diverted it to the state's general fund. The language in that bill for the lodging tax has since been stricken, as I've been told, so it appears that our lodging tax will continue to be utilized as it was intended for. The VCB may also be potentially installing a new CEO in the next few months. With Shauna Stewart stepping down last year, Jeff Bowe has been a great interim CEO while the board decides on a permanent solution. And we should see resolution on this hopefully by March. For the chamber, we had our forum yesterday and our guest speaker was Leslie Van Lieshout. I apologize if I messed up that name. Director of Student Support for North Thurston Public Schools. Topic was regarding the necessity and effectiveness of our Family and Youth Resource Center. And very good information. And our EDC, last EDC was January 27th, and we covered our 2021 new budget and work plan for the year. Some of the focus goals this year: building an entrepreneurial ecosystem and supporting the retention of our region's employers, recruitment of new investment and employers to the region, and rebuilding and recharging our local economy. And the EDC Executive Committee is building their strategy relating to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And last but not least, our SWAC met yesterday. We heard extensively from county staff on the progression of following programs: Public Works Recycle and Waste Reduction Program, Environmental Health, Education and Prevention Program, and the Solid and Hazard Waste Program. And that is my report.
Yeah, can one of you give a quick update on the Gold Star Memorial and what's going on with there?
I'd be happy to. We do have an auction, online auction coming up in March. I am very grateful for CoinForce, local vendor that volunteered to do creation and is donating a certain number of coins so that we can focus on fundraising. We do have coins available to the public that are available for purchase. And we're at this point, we are looking for items that we can auction on an online auction. And I don't want to steal all the thunder. I'll let Councilmember Stedman step in on that too.
Yeah. Well, Ed's not going to promote himself. So, he's a generous person, and he's making a flag. I'm donating some Seahawk memorabilia. Anything the community or businesses want to do, anything helps it. All the proceeds 100% towards the Gold Star Foundation Monument, Lacey. But what else? We got lapel pins that came in today along with the coins, and bricks are going out for the first set of bricks that are line the walkway, or the area of the monument are going into production, the first phase of them. So other than that, in regards
how
to
do we purchase those?
Oh, online, you go to Gold Star Memorial Foundation, Lacey, and everything's right there. The coins, the lapel pins, the bricks, everything. Just scroll down. It's right there. Quick and easy for you. And like I said, 100% proceeds go to the monument.
We're also looking to create get creation rendering on a future home site sign that we can post in the Lacey Civic Plaza. More to come on that. We still have a lot of work to do. But you know, public has been very, very receptive to the monument. It's an important thing, honoring the families of lost loved ones in the line of duty. And we're both, Councilmember Stedman and I are really looking forward to seeing this monument come to fruition, be a great, important thing for our community and for our veterans and their families.
Yeah. And then as far as the VCB, you know, Lenny and I were on that committee for several years, and you know, I was part of the hiring of Shauna Stewart in that whole process. And one thing that was disturbing to me, out of 62 applications, there was only one military applicant, and it was someone from the Air Force. Doesn't matter, but I mean, commerce and military travel about the most out of any people I know in the whole world. So, and when you're talking about travel and spending money once you get to and from your destinations, I think that warrants more than 1 out of 62. So something to keep something to keep in mind, Ed, when you guys have a search. And I love the fact that Lenny and TCOM 911 are looking at hiring within. I think it's very important. You know, we have several business owners on this council, and I think that's a good business practices to look within first. So it doesn't matter. I think Jeff's a great guy. I would support him, but you know, that's your guys' job. I would just, you know, throw in my 2 cents.
Councilmember Miller?
Is the memorial going to be named after a service member, or are we honoring somebody with it other than in purpose and intent? Are we honoring somebody in name, or are we just?
You can sort of. I mean, the bricks and the other accessories that are going around the monument could be used to specifically honor individuals, but the memorial itself is honoring Gold Star families. That's the specific purpose.
Oh, well, yeah, okay.
Is it Gold Star from?
I'll give one thing. Go ahead, Andy.
Is it Gold Star families just in Lacey, or from all of Thurston County?
Well, the Gold Star Foundation is nationwide, but the Foundation Lacey is specific to Lacey. If you go through the national website, you can go in there, specifically donate just to Lacey. But if you go to the foundation, you know, the Gold Star Family Foundation Lacey specific, that's just us. Okay. So I'll give one. I'll tip off one spearheaded effort, I guess you'd say. Everybody knows Justin Norton, and everybody should in this area. Young man, Ranger from Rainier. Our post, American Legion Post 100, Lacey Tumwater Post, is named after, in his honor. He was killed in Iraq, you know, a while back. Yeah. And so that's one way to honor somebody is, you know, the corporation bought a brick in his honor, and we're going to have that. So, but the actual Gold Star Family Monument is for the families that, you know, essentially recognizing their sacrifice of losing a loved one, a family member, for all our individual freedoms. So will those family members, is it anyone within Thurston County, or is it only those members? Any family, anywhere.
Yeah, the monument, it doesn't matter. I mean, you know, you think about it on a national perspective. Anywhere you go where there's a Gold Star Family Memorial, the intent is to honor families who have sacrificed their loved ones to serve our country. And so when we post our monument, it's a tribute to all Gold Star families. We just, you know, we're going to be privileged to have one here in Lacey.
Okay.
If that answers your question.
So it's anyone who's lost, who's going to go up on the memorial. Okay.
And there'll be plenty of opportunities to, you know, highlight families and individuals that have sacrificed everything. So.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, guys. We have reached the end of our agenda. Like I said, I can't wait until at some point be back in person. But until then, hopefully everyone's getting their shots, and that will go smoothly, and will you know, help out the cause. But until next time, I will call this meeting adjourned. And as always, you keep it classy, Lacey. See ya.
Bye, everybody.